What's going on there, folks? Good morning and good afternoon to those out there. It is the Earthmaster here on this Sunday, February 13th, 2022, about 11:16 a.m. California time here along the West Coast. A 5.4 earthquake, the latest quake on the globe over around the Armenia area, it looks like. Let's go ahead and check that out on the latest map here from the USGS. See that movement there on the flat scale map here. 5.4 striking within the last hour at about 10 kilometers or so. Looks like it was felt broadly over the region there in Armenia. Quite a few folks reported feeling it. Everything in the green, though, far as the pager and the estimated economic losses, whatnot, here on their little chart on the pager system. Looks pretty green in that area, so hopefully not too much damage in terms of that 5.4 earthquake. Looking at the regional information, definitely see some activity out here in this area of the world, and some of it can get up there around the, looks like 5 to 6 range, possibly larger here around this area of Armenia. Looks like down south here they've had some sizable ones, but today just a 5.4. It's been relatively quiet here in this area of the world over the last day or so, about day and a half. Looks like we're finally getting some westward movement here with all the increase in activity here with the Pacific Plate kind of working its way over here to the west now. Eastern part of the North American Plate, we'll check that out here in a second. Let's see what we got down here. Uganda area at a 4.8. Kind of a good one out there, right? Looks like everything green in that area of the world far as the damages go. And then again on this map here, definitely see some sizable quakes here up around the 6 to 7 range, it looks like, for activity when it comes to historical data around this area of the world. What else we got here? Atlantic Ocean, seen a little bit of activity, north, middle, and the south part here. Little migration of quakes throughout this entire area. Had a 4.7 and a 4.9. Looks like earlier this morning here, or actually early this morning, late night, just a couple 4s there in that region. Then further down south we've seen some movement as well, with a 5.5 in the central mid-Atlantic ridge. Further down south, of course, the South Sandwich Islands, the northern part of it along the trench here into the subduction zone of 5.4 at 87.9 kilometers. So quite a bit of movement up and down the board here throughout the Atlantic. Let's see what else we got here. Puerto Rico, not a whole lot going on. We did see a little bit of activity overnight, kind of ramp up here around the Puerto Rico Trench. Southwest part of Puerto Rico kind of dying out in terms of the multitude of quakes. But up here, got about 4 earthquakes in the mid-5 range kicking off here, somewhat deep around the Puerto Rico Trench between 21 and 35 kilometers into that region. Rest of the Caribbean looks pretty quiet for now. 1 earthquake off the coast of Guatemala, 4.7 at 72 kilometers, just off the coast right there. But that is a subduction zone quake here with the depth there at 72 kilometers into, or I should say down into the Middle America Trench region. North American area, the states, a little bit of Oklahoma activity picking up, and the swarm out in Texas, well, it's continuing. A couple more smaller quakes this morning, 2.7, 2.8, and a 3.5. This comes after a pretty good amount of swarming yesterday. I've seen quite a few 3s, including a 4.2 ramp up here in the area northwest of Pecos, Texas. There is some fault systems that do run through here, but there's also some gas wells and oil operations throughout the region of this part of Texas. But it's been pretty consistent. Far in terms of the multitude and magnitudes of quakes, we haven't seen anything significant far as large magnitudes. Sometimes we get these 4s in this area, but it hasn't gotten too much larger than that. Just quite a few 2s and 3s and an occasional 4. So I'm still not 100% certain what that's leading to at the moment. Nothing going on according to the USGS across the Intermountain West. They have reported, I've seen this earthquake come in here this morning, a couple hours ago. Pretty well-defined spike on the Mendocino, California station. If you're watching the live stream, you would have seen that earthquake show up there. And surprise, surprise, they reported it. 2.4. It was off the coast in Northern California, but showed up distinctly on the Mendocino station there. Maybe these guys are going to finally start adding the earthquakes here, and I'm sure they watch the videos quite often. So hopefully these guys will get on the ball, right, and get these earthquakes that are happening here in Northern California on the map. I don't know why they've been hiding out the data, but it is what it is. Yellowstone, a different story. Maybe they have to sort through all the earthquakes that area had over the last couple days, which was a pretty good amount. Go ahead and check out the Yellowstone thumbnails here. Got to get a sip of my coffee. It's supposed to be another 80 degrees today here in California. A little bit of cool down beginning tomorrow with some wind. So here's the latest map here on the Yellowstone area. Still seeing some movement here around the eastern part of the Yellowstone caldera. And yeah, that looks like earthquake activity, quite a bit of it. And it is showing up on some other stations nearby. Not as strongly over here around Little West Thumb. We could just, let me get off that one, not this station. Little West Thumb here. Just see a little bit of it showing up here on this graph. But it is still there nonetheless at a distance from the main epicenter, which is looks like around Borehole. But that station's picking up pretty nicely, and also down here around the promontory, picking up some distinct earthquake signatures. Now the big picture was the previous day. Seen quite a bit of movement kick up here around the Old Faithful area and the northwestern part of the Yellowstone caldera, away from the current swarm that we're seeing today down here. That activity kind of ramping up in a big way. And that's not all of it. We'd have to go back to the previous day so we can see the full extent of it. And it kind of cuts it off, but you get it. Here's the other part to the part I just showed you. Definitely quite a bit of earthquake activity that ramped up there in Yellowstone within those couple days there, and I'm sure they got to sort through it, figure out the magnitudes and whatnot. But there's definitely some quakes up there in the 2 range that happened there that, of course, hasn't been added to the map. I'm sure they'll get on the ball Monday morning, right? All right, what else we got here? West Coast. There's the activity stretching Northern California down southward here. There's definitely a lot more than what they're showing, but it is what it is. 3.2 in the band in Oregon yesterday. No more earthquakes, at least according to this map, off the coast of Oregon currently. Some activity along the coastal range here, Bartlett Springs area, and the geyser activity kind of dying down. I'm sure that will ramp up during the week. A little bit of movement around the San Andreas Fault here in San Francisco, just south of the Big Island, or the Big Island, the big city. 1.8 near Pacifica at 11.8 kilometers below surface, just off the San Andreas Fault. A little bit of swarming here along the creeping section as well. Ridgecrest, eastern part of the Sierra Nevada, all looks fairly quiet. Just some small, very small microquakes up and down the board there. No significant swarming to report throughout Southern California either. Arizona, New Mexico, all looks pretty quiet there in the eastern part of the country as well. South America, this earthquake here was from yesterday, 4.5 in the Chile area at 122 kilometers below surface. But I think the big picture that we can see for now, let's go ahead and cover Hawaii real quick. Southeast flank pretty active here, looks like today, but no significant swarming around the Mauna Loa volcano today. So big picture on the map here, this forward push of movement here to the west and up around this plate boundary, adding to the earthquake activity up here. That's very possible that could continue through this region, depending on how much stress is built up here along the Java Trench and the area throughout the Middle East, and also in India and China region. So got to watch this area pretty closely here. These are some big plates and pressure movement to the west here, creating a lot of activity in the region today. So looking at a little bit of closer activity here around the Philippines, seeing that line of deep movement here. We got at least a pretty deep one, 195 kilometers way down south here in Indonesia, and some activity working its way up into the Philippines with somewhat deep activity around here, around 82 kilometers or so, into the Philippine Trench. Up here to the north, 5.5 This one's a little bit more shallower, 39.7 kilometers, but either way, definitely some deep activity within this region over the last 24 hours. Starting to see a little bit of movement up here around the Japan Trench into it. 4.9 and a 4.4, 49 kilometers. This area, very high accumulated stress region when it comes to, well, stress, right? Plates do push up against each other and accumulate quite a bit of stress. Specifically on this region right here, we see a lot of buildup in a short amount of time. Tonga, a lot of activity happening there yesterday. I don't see any renewed movement. Looks like maybe we had a 5.4 in the Vanuatu area and a 4.8 overnight, with some deeper movement north of Tonga. With a that one's a 4.8 at 218 kilometers. So deep activity continues, and still got to watch this area pretty closely here with these quiet zones and the Japan region up here northward. North American plate, like I say, it's earthquake activity, but it's just kind of spotty at the moment when it comes to movement. Not a whole lot of activity within the last hour. No red circles shown up there on the map. Let's see what else we got here. Earthquakes Canada. We'll go ahead and check these guys out here real quick on the map. See what these guys are reporting. Nothing really over the last day. In fact, this earthquake here, I believe, is from a couple days ago. Yeah, 210, 2.9. These guys aren't showing anything either on their map. In tremor map last night, it was just mostly confined to the Northern California area, southern end of the Cascadia. Ultimately, that's explaining the surface quaking, the back building of pressure up here along the Cascadia, and some of that earthquake activity we've seen off the coast of Northern California and also around the Blanco fracture zone. A definite signature of the tremor activity that's been taking place yesterday. Let's see what else we got. Anything going on the sun? I don't believe there's too much happening. At least, I don't know. This thing's always changing, though. It can change in a quick blink of an eye. Everything's green across the board for the most part. A little bit of activity. Looks like tonight into Valentine's Day should be pretty quiet. Only a 30% chance of some storming at the higher latitudes right now. Looks like KP index sitting at a neutral around the 3. A little bit of activity ramping up here, but on the dark side of the Earth. Flare, yeah, not a whole lot to mention here. These guys are showing a 15% chance of an M flare, with a C flare sitting at 65% chance. And it's got to be from the departing 2941 and also 2946, which has kind of grown a little bit. And we'll be facing the Earth side here pretty soon. What else we got? Anything else going on here, folks? I think that's about it. Like I said, I'm just kind of curious to see when these guys will get to the Yellowstone activity. I know it's a lot to decipher, but I remember there was a time when they would utilize the preliminary data systems, which would put out earthquake activity, but a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people at the time started fear-mongering earthquake swarms, and I think it kind of stirred up a few folks. Earthquake swarms are very common at Yellowstone. They do happen quite a bit, and I think the only time we would have to worry about seeing a pending eruption, if there was, we'd see major ground swelling for one, major uplift in what we're seeing right now, and earthquakes probably around the 4 to 5, maybe even some 6 range before this thing were to, do like a large-scale eruption. But then again, it may not even be a large scale. It may just be a little bit of activity at the surface, and who knows. But for now, it looks pretty quiet. I did check out the GPS systems there of Yellowstone, and there's not a whole lot happening up there at the moment. We can check out the area where we've been seeing these swarms kind of over here around the northwest corner of the park. And look, what's the station called? Not for sure. NRWY? Okay, that'll work. So this chart right here shows you eastward trend, northward trend, and the upward lift, if you will. Of course, I remember back in, when was that? Had a pretty significant uptick, it looks like, right around here. Even though this graph is kind of pointing in this region. There was definitely an uplift around 2016, then a little bit of decline. Although within this year, it looks like they've updated this a little bit. Starting to see well, it's shown decline here on these graphs, on these dots, but also an upward trend here right at the beginning of 2022. So sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. We need to probably wait a couple more weeks or so we can get a better view of that graph in more detail when it comes to seeing if we are indeed a uplift trend. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it. For now, hope everyone enjoys the rest of their weekend. Going to go out here with Missy Mimi's and see if we can't get a garden going. Some more earthquake there in Mendocino. Larger earthquakes will flatline this entire graph here, so look for that. We see it, and hopefully the USGS sees it as well. I'm sure they do, but hopefully they start reporting the earthquakes on time and utilize that system that sends out the preliminary data, because it's always good to know about, right? All right, what else we got here? Hold on one second here. I wanted to check the EMSC models here, see if these guys are reporting anything different on the map that the USGS is not reporting. Yeah, it looks about the same here as far as the 4.0 earthquake and above goes, although these guys have two earthquakes out here in the Pacific. Just two 4.8s, 4.5 and a 4.8. Alrighty, folks, have a good day. Stay safe out there, and yeah, I'm gonna go outside and enjoy the sunshine. It's supposed to be 80 degrees again today, so we will be soaking up some rays. All right, guys, peace out.